to wrap up then, I want us just to think about what are some things we can do as parents. There was a great research came out that they asked parents, what is it that are things that you want to say to your kids? And then they asked the kids, what are things you want your parents to know? So I hope you're ready for this. Number one is this idea of having a family contract. Now, sitting down and having some kind of digital family contract, I think is a great activity to do as a family. The hardest part is trying to keep with it and stick with the contract as a family. And usually the first person to break the contract isn't a child. So here's what some of the things are, right? It's my phone, I bought it, I paid for it, and I'm loaning it to you, aren't you the greatest? That's what parents think. Here's what the kids said. When I have something to say, Mommy needs to close the laptop and listen. That's a good rule. I like that rule. Here's another good rule. Do not use this technology to lie, fool, or deceive another human being. Do not involve yourself in conversations that are hurtful to others. Be a good friend first, or stay out of the conversation. From a parent perspective. A good rule for a kid. No one, including mom and dad, can check text messages or answer the phone when we are at the dinner table, watching a television program or film together, or playing a game together. That's what voicemail and answer machines are for. That's the rule kids want to have in place. Right? So it becomes interesting. Here's an interesting video. See what you think about this.
How was the birthday party? Here's let's send me some pictures. How was your week at school?
Are you missing out on real time? Learn how to find a healthy balance with technology at commonsense.org.
So commonsense.org is a great resource for parents. They have all kinds of great parent resources there, activities to do with your kids. There's more videos like that to do with your kids that are quite interesting to watch. Not all of them make parents look so bad, even though a lot of times we are. So it's an interesting one. And here's one of the things that I think about. We see pictures like this, and we think to ourselves, how horrible is that? How horrible is it that this generation sits around not talking to each other, and they're all on their devices? And we see pictures like this all the time of teens hanging out, and we're just like, man, something's wrong. But here, just try this on for size. When kids are this age, and they're Skyping their grandparents, we think it's amazing. Any grandparents in here that Skype or FaceTime your kids? Most amazing stuff ever, isn't it? Incredible. And so we're teaching them at this age that it's okay. And that this technology stuff's amazing. It connects you like never before. And they get this age, and we're like, it's bad. You should stay off it. You should be talking to your friends. You shouldn't be using your technology. And then you get this age, we think it's amazing again. Why is it that it's okay for technology to be amazing, and when you're this age, technology is okay to be amazing, but when you're at this age, you're not supposed to be on it? That's interesting to me. Because the kids that are doing this now are the kids that were Skyping grandma and grandpa when they were 4, just 5 or 6, 7, 10 years ago. And so they've been raised to believe this is the way life is. This is the way life is if you're a middle schooler. And here's the thing, they are doing the best they can. It's their first time of being 10. It's their first time of being 12. It's their first time of being 6. We have the luxury as adults to look back and remember a grand old time. They're struggling through it for the first time. And they're doing the best they can with the tools and technology that's available to them. And it's interesting how we look at this tech, and depending on your age, I find it fascinating. If you're over the age of 55, you like phone calls. You know, that was the technology if you were in that age group. You used to like calling people. My mother-in-law is on the phone like 3 hours a day talking to her friends. Loves the phone. Calls people all the time. If you're between the ages of 55 and 35, you like email. We're the generation that walk around and say, will you email that to me? Will you put that in? I'm not going to remember. Just send me an email. We're the email generation. If you're between the ages of 35 and 18, you're the texting generation. Everything is done in a text message. Here's a little tip. If you're over the age of 5, you do not call somebody under the age of 35. Unless you text them first and ask me, I call you. Just a little tip. Because if you call somebody under the age of 35, it better be an emergency. Somebody better be dying. Or they don't answer the phone. Because you don't call people anymore. This hit me, and here's the generation in our schools today. You wonder why they walk around with phones like this? This is how you use a phone for this generation. I called my goddaughter for her birthday this summer. And I'm like, hey, sweetie, happy birthday. And she's like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm calling you to wish you happy birthday. She's like, why? Because it's your birthday. Will you hang up? That was rude. Next thing I know, Google Hangout rings, and it's her face. And she's like, that's better. You see, this generation expects that why would you just want to hear somebody when I can see you? Why would I just want to hear somebody when I can see your facial expressions, and I can see your smile, or I can see you have feelings and you're crying? That's how you make a phone call for this generation. This? I don't get this. I had a teacher come to me. I was doing a workshop like this down in Auburn, and the teacher came up to me. She's like, this hit me in full force the other day. She's like, I was talking to we're sitting down to dinner, and my 14-year-old son was on the phone, and I was like, hang up the phone, hang up the phone. He hung up the phone. He said, Mom, what are you doing? I don't get this. Right, it should be this. Hang up the phone. Hang up the phone. Right? It's not good or bad. It's different. It's not good or bad. It's different. And they're a different generation. The greatest research I've seen come out about this generation is done by a woman here in Seattle. Her name is Dana Boyd. She's funded mostly by Microsoft. And for 10 years, she followed this generation. And I think this is a must-read for parents. When I buy technology for my goddaughters, I buy the book for their mom, and I make her read it before the girls could got their phones. I made her basically force her. When you got a 12-year-old that's waiting to get her first phone, Mom finishes the book. Right? Fantastic book. Here's what the research says about this generation. This generation has less freedom today than any generation before them. They are not allowed to go outside and play, even though we always say, I wish they would just go outside and play. They're not allowed to hang out at the mall. They can't go to parks after dark, because parks don't stay open after dark. They can't hang out at the 7-Eleven. Where did you hang out as a teenager? And there's no way you would let your son or daughter go there today. They have less freedoms. I was allowed to ride my bike 7 blocks to my friend's house. Now you're allowed to ride your block maybe in the street in front of you, maybe from stop sign to stop sign, unless the parents have done a background check on your friend's parents. And so kids today have less freedom than they've ever had before. Yet they are the same as we were. And when you hit the age of 10, school is not as important as friends, as social. And part of being a teenager today is being social. Part of always being a teenager was being social. Finding ways to hang out with your friends. We used to lie to our parents. We're going over to Billy's house and we end up over at Susie's house. Right? We found ways that parents didn't know where we were every moment of the day, because being a teenager is about breaking away from your parents. Being a teenager plays an amazing role in a democracy. A teenager's role is to push the boundaries of what we believe. It's always been a teenager's role, which is why most big things come out of university systems, are started by university students. And teenagers push. You give every teenager a laptop at this school? You give every elementary kid a laptop at this school? First thing they do is push, where does this thing go? Where do my blocks? How am I supposed to get there? Their job is to push the boundaries. What is blocked? What is unblocked? Then I'm going to try to get around it. I'm going to try to get around it. Can I get around it this way? That's their job. Their job is to push boundaries. And they always have, and they always will. It's the job of a teenager. Our job is just to hang on for dear life. So research shows they have less freedom than any generation before them. I talk to kids all the time, and I'm like, would you like to go to your friend's house? I'd love to go to my friend's house. Well, why don't you? Well, because she's busy, or I'm busy, or my mom won't let me. And in the mid-1990s, a report came out that showed that the kids that were being the most disruptive were kids that had unstructured time in their life. So as good parents, what did we do? Structured it. Structured every moment of their day to where kids have very little time to play anymore. And so what does research show? We force them into social networks, and then we yell at them for being there. There's a reason why kids are on Instagram. There's a reason why they created their own app. You realize Snapchat was created by a 22-year-old who knew that there needed to be a place where parents couldn't go. You have places where parents couldn't go, or parents didn't want to go, or parents didn't understand. They just didn't happen to be in digital spaces. They were in physical spaces. But we don't allow kids to go in physical spaces anymore, so we push them into these digital spaces to be teens. And then we yell at them for being there. I'm not saying it's right, I'm saying it's what is. And we have to start respecting the places that they hang out. And we need to start having the conversations about the places they hang out so we can understand them. And so we can help them be a teenager. And they're going to make mistakes. I've got a feeling your teenage years weren't perfect. And I want them to make mistakes. Making mistakes as a teenager is one of the best places to make mistakes because you have caring adults who are going to help you through it. And I know it feels like your life is going to end today. I had a girl break up with me too. And I know what that feels like, but you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. We have to start thinking about, I noticed on some of the things, we use this idea of addiction. Yes, there is internet addiction, but we have to be very careful the way we use that phrasing with kids. Because I have seen kids who I could not get to stop reading a book for days, and we've never said, oh my gosh, they're addicted to books. There's a difference between being interested and being addicted. And we have to be very careful with the way we use those phrasings. Being interested is playing a game until I master it, and then I never go back and hit that. How many of you have games sitting around your house that you bought for your kids, and then all of a sudden they mastered the game and now they never go play it anymore? Or you had to go sell it back in, right? That's interest. That's not addiction. That's interest. And we see a lot of interest with technology. It's a very interesting thing. Right? Not saying that addiction doesn't happen. We just got to be careful that we don't mix interest with addiction. One of the things you can do with your kids is start using I understand statements. Because we all live in a digital world as well. How many of you in here are on Facebook? A good majority of you. Okay. I use Facebook because that's usually where our generation hangs out. The kids have given up on Facebook because all the adults moved in. So they went down the road, right? But you start thinking about ways you can have conversations with your students at your house. Saying I understand does not prevent us from parenting, but it does not stop us from setting boundaries and having consequences. It does start to build bridges and walls. And so here are a couple of things that I have seen and I try to go to, and it's a really hard place as parents. But some things like, I love technology too. A lot. Right? I like lights too. And I can have that conversation. It's okay to say, I like technology too. We can have a conversation. But there's a good and there's a bad. And sometimes knowing when to disconnect is the hardest thing. And that's not a generational thing. That's a society thing. Knowing when to disconnect is sometimes the hardest part as a society that we're dealing with. Technology distracts me at work too. What are some things that you do when you're distracted from technology at work? How many of you have to turn in your cell phone when you go into the workplace? 4, 5, 6, some of you military people, huh? Yeah. The rest of us, nobody takes my cell phone off me. Right? So it's interesting. So how do you deal with that? Do you talk with your children about, okay, you need to focus and get this work done. What does that space look like? Does that mean you have music playing? Does that mean you don't have music playing? Right? Does it mean that you need to put your phone away? Do you need to put your phone in the kitchen? Do I need to hold your phone for you for the next 45 minutes? What does that look like? Right? I like likes too. If you're on Facebook, you like getting likes as much as somebody else. You like getting comments on your posts. That's why you post the stuff. And Facebook is where we're our perfect selves. We have different personas. Facebook is the perfect you. You're the perfect family on Facebook. Every photo you've ever noticed? Everybody I follow is their perfect selves on Facebook. Like the perfect photo of the family. It's not real, but I like that. We like Facebook for that. It's a way we stay in connection. You can come to me. When you see something you don't like, know that we can have a conversation. I'm not going to yell at you. We can have a conversation about it, and you're going to see things you don't like. No matter what filter a school puts in place, no matter what filter you put in place at home, something will get through. It's not an if, it's a when. And when it happens, have you had the conversation with your children to know that they can come to you when it happens? The hardest thing to block for any filter is pictures. Pictures are just really, really hard to block. And you can have all kinds of safe searches on. And pictures are just tough. And we don't try to see them. But when you do see them, what do we do at your house? Do we close the laptop? Do we come get an adult? Do you understand you're going to be in trouble if you keep going there? But if you come to me and we can have a conversation about it, we'll talk about it. Open up those lines of communication. It's no longer optional. We live in a blended world. And we have to start thinking about what does it mean to parent in a blended world. And just like you're the last generation to remember life without the internet, you're the first generation to raise blended children. Lucky, lucky you. Also today, as we wrap up, one of the companies that I run has just started parenting courses. We have 6 courses called Parenting in the Digital Age. And if you use that, you can take a picture of that. If you use the offer code CKParents, you can save 25%. You can take all 6, you can take 1, you can take 4, take however many you want. They have videos of conversations with parents. It comes with a free book if that is more your style. But know that we are trying to put resources here because we are the first generation to raise blended children, and we have to come together and keep having these conversations and do the best we can. You are all great parents. We just have to continue to have the conversations and continue to get better. Thank you for spending the hour with me. Have a good time.
Thank you, Jeff. Just a couple things. You're here. The fact that you're here is a great thing as parents. We want to be parents that make our kids better because of us, not in spite of us. You're here, and your kids will be better because you're here. Each of you is different. Each of your families are different, and are going to approach some of these things differently. We wanted to present the resources. Not necessarily are we here to tell you all the answers to how to fix it or how to do it the right way. I have 5 kids. I was a perfect parent on number 1. I'm not sure I know a whole lot to talk about parenting after number 5, who's 22 sometime later this week. So parenting is learning, and we are going to make mistakes no matter what we do. Should I do more? Should I do less? Likelihood is you might be wrong either way. So continue to search after the answers for you and your family. We'll try to provide additional resources so that you have some, but talk to your friends, talk to your kids. The digital contract, wish I'd had that for number 5. There's just things that you'll learn as you go along. But again, thank you for coming, thank you for your time, and thank you for caring about the kids. Yours, ours, and those down the street from you. Have a great evening.